what's up you guys? I'm Sarah Lebrat and I've been working on draft 6 of my high fantasy project DE for a little while now, so I thought it was time to take you guys through my editing process as I go through and edit a chapter with a fine-tooth comb. So if you go on to enjoy this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could give it a big thumbs up because that really supports my channel by telling the YouTube algorithm that you liked my video and that somebody else might too. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And now without further ado, let's get into this video. So where I left off in my last video was trying to figure out how to transfer the chapter that I was working on with all of its tracked changes into my draft 6 document. And from what I've read, you can't really do that. You can combine two documents that have different edits in them of the same original document, but not necessarily merging documents with new information on it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start tracking all of my revisions in a separate document where I'm just counting how many revisions there are, which is kind of a bummer, but oh well, I'll just move forward. In the draft 6 document, focusing on one chapter at a time, making sure that I add a couple pages of buffer between the new chapter that I'm going to be working on and the old chapters that I've already worked on, and kind of just move forward like that. So today is December 19th and we're going to start on chapter 4. Okay, I decided what I think right now is the best way for me to do this, and that is I went ahead and deleted the first 3 chapters from my DED5 draft document, but then I replaced those first 3 chapters with the draft 6 equivalent, so basically the updated, the new, the better chapters, and then I renamed that document to draft 6. And so then I'm just going to move forward in that, tracking my changes so that at least starting in chapter 4 moving forward, I will have all of my tracked changes in one document. Or at least that's the goal. I really hope this works. Honestly, it was really annoying, really annoying, but it's okay. I think that this is the best way to do it, so hopefully this works. Okay, finally getting started on the actual chapter 4 instead of trying to configure my documents right now. And chapter 4 starts with a really weak sentence. It's chapter 4. This is the first chapter that we see from this character, and I started out with blank, aka the character's name, but blank was leaning against the wall of an alley. You don't know anything about this character. You don't know anything about what's going on or where she is, and I just think it's not right. So now I get to try and figure out how to phrase this better while introducing the character and setting up the world building for where she is. I don't know. Wish me luck. Just kidding. There's a comma after that and then it continues on a little bit. So the full sentence is, blank was leaning against the wall of an alley, watching the house across the cobbled street through her breath that curled in the cold air. I like that second half of the sentence a lot better. I just need to, I think, either restructure the sentence or change something about it because I don't like how it starts with her name when you don't know who this character is. I actually really like the second sentence of this paragraph. There's only 2 sentences in this first paragraph, but maybe I put that second sentence first. This is the whole point of why I'm looking this intensely at this draft, is because phrasing and stuff like this matters. Shocking. So after my first pass of this first paragraph, the sentence now reads, the magnificent city of blank was quiet around blank as she leaned across the wall of the alley, watching the house across the cobbled street through her breath curling in the cold air. And then I still have its citizens long since gone to bed kind of outside of it, and I'm kind of thinking that maybe I change out the word magnificent because I don't think that that's very strong. It's very vague. And instead of saying quiet around about the city, I think that maybe I say sleeping city or something like that to kind of rephrase what I think is important, which is setting the time of day, which is well into the night, and describing the city a little bit better. And I do have names for the city and the character that I'm talking about. I just don't want to share them on YouTube yet, even though there are things later in the book that still need names. So maybe I change that. I need a different word for magnificent. I kind of want to call it the Jewel City, but it's not a city known for its jewels. The city itself is a jewel, so I'm not sure if that's, and not an actual gemstone or something, but I don't know how to phrase this. This is the worst part of doing this draft, is trying to actually make decisions on how to phrase these things really specifically. I'm now looking up synonyms. I could say grand, I could say majestic, not really, awe-inspiring, breathtaking, sumptuous, glorious, striking, impressive, spectacular, awesome, splendid, not really, brilliant, no, it's a gem, it's the prize city, but it's not a capital. Oh my gosh. I could just say the city of blank, and then do I say was quiet around, was sleeping around, was slumbering around? I like slumbering. The city of blank was slumbering around blank as she leaned against the wall of an alley, watching the house across the cobbled street through her breath curling in the cold air. That's good enough for this pass, and then I'll read it back again as I start my second pass. So now onto the second paragraph. I ate dinner, now we're back at it, and I have a plant growing on my head. But I just isolated a sentence that is 58 words. That's like 3.5 lines all by itself. And it's so wordy. And so now I need to cut this down to like a reasonable, like 2 lines preferably. Okay, with my lack of world building so far in this chapter, because I'm on the 3rd paragraph, there's a piece of information that doesn't make sense without other backstory, okay? Good to know. Okay, so we're gonna try this. Okay, now the sentence is 49 words, and I added a little bit of context that I think is going to help make that easier to read, but this sentence itself is still too long. Okay, I've made some serious progress on this paragraph so far, but there is one piece of information that I removed to make it all work that needs to be in this paragraph. Okay, I think that paragraph is now where I want it to be, so I'm gonna go back and reread these first 3 paragraphs and then move on. Okay, I'm stuck on the first paragraph again. I do think I massively improved it from what it was as 2 sentences, but now I'm getting caught on the second part of the sentence, which is the city of blank was slumbering around blank as she leaned against the wall of an alley, watching the house across the cobbled street through her breath curling in the air. When I say that out loud, it's not that bad. It's just really, really wordy. And I feel like there has to be a way for me to be able to cut that down. Would it be better if I did watching the house across the cobbled street through her breath as it curled in the cold air? That feels like even more words. Okay, so that time I read through it and I just blazed past it. So let me try this again. The city of blank was slumbering around blank as she leaned against the wall of the alley, watching the house across the cobbled street through her breath curling in the cold air. That might be fine. That might be fine. Okay, I'm just gonna let it sit for right now and then I'll come back to it on my next pass. Okay, that might be an inconsistency in this 3rd paragraph, which is the one that I was working on a second ago. And if that's an inconsistency, then that's bad. And when I say inconsistency, I mean, I think that's a timeline issue of the person that I'm talking about in this paragraph. I don't think is actually what I'm saying that she is. I think she's something different. And if she's making the move when I'm saying this, then the timeline of the other thing I had in mind doesn't work. But I could switch out one of the words for, instead of newest, I could say upcoming. How long does this book cover? I think I had this book covering like 6 months. 6 months-ish. But if this book covers roughly 6 months, then 6 months is kind of a long time span from this to something that happens later in the book. This is actually really helpful to talk about this out loud, even though I'm being cryptic for you guys. I think upcoming works instead of newest, and that would fix that issue. I'm just gonna highlight this for later. Okay, now I need to search the document for a name. Nice, I did remember it, that's good. I wasn't remembering how to spell it correctly, so now I need to go back to the chapter that I was working on. Maybe I don't need his name here. I could actually if I just rearrange it a little bit, and then he might feel less surprising later on because we already have context to who he is. Okay, had often trained with blank whenever he had come through the city, or had trained with blank. I think often is unnecessary. Okay, that is a much more solid 3rd paragraph, and now I can finally move on to the 4th paragraph. Alrighty, I've got another pretty long run-on sentence. This one is 57 words, again like 3.5 lines, but unfortunately I think this sentence isn't that bad. I can try to say it out loud and see how it works, but it's wordy, but I think it works. Okay, it's a long sentence. This is the 6th paragraph in this chapter. I'm like halfway through the first page. There's 4 pages, I think. Yeah, there's 4 pages to this. Joy. Okay, I think I can move the last portion of the sentence into a new sentence. Okay, now let's reread that. That's better. That's a lot better. Yay, now we move on to the next paragraph. I also just wrote down 3 other character names I need to come up with for this chapter. That is something I will work on later. after I finished my last 30 minutes of working on chapter 4, which again, it's a long process, but I feel very good about it just because I can get it to fit the vision in my head a lot better than it sat in draft 5. But then I got up and I did my dishes and I moved my laundry, and I have come to notice over my years of writing and trying to be productive consistently that what I like to call productive breaks is one of my best ways to continue to stay productive, and that is after writing, so doing like a writing sprint or something, then you move on to doing something else that keeps your hands busy but can let your mind keep picking away on whatever you're working on. And it makes me feel like I'm getting a lot done because I am getting a lot done, just in different areas of my life. And then also when I'm cleaning or doing my dishes or doing laundry, it's also tidying up the space that I'm writing in, which then makes going back to writing a lot easier because my space is cleaner. So all in all, it's just like a win-win-win-win-win situation for me. And I do have several other opportunities for productive breaks later on tonight. It's currently like 8:40 p.m. I do need to go to bed at somewhat of a reasonable time tonight because I am flying tomorrow. And with that, I need to finish cleaning my apartment, which could be probably about 2 productive breaks. I need to pack, and that might be about it. So I have 3 opportunities, 3-ish probably opportunities to continue working on productive breaks. But what that means is that now I get to go back to another writing sprint to continue working on chapter 4. Okay, this is a very read chapter so far. In the first of 4 pages of chapter 4, it's already a chapter that was like under 2,000 words. I have already made 110 revisions to the first page. Yikes. I just worked for 20 minutes. I should probably get up now and like clean my living room or something because I will be out of town for the majority of December and I get back right before the new year. So I want to come back to a really clean space. So I think that's what's up next. I'm gonna listen to some music, clean my living room, and then I'm gonna come back and do another writing sprint. Now that that's clean, we need to switch back over to my writing color, which is orange. Maybe. There we go. Well, apparently I spelled peaked wrong, so that's fun. Okay, so I'm struggling a little bit here on the second page of chapter 4, just because I added a piece of information that feels really important to the story that just kind of gives a little bit more background, and yet adding that messes with the flow of what was being said in the chapter, and I liked that flow of what was being said in the chapter before I added that. So I've been staring at this for a few moments now, and I'm trying to figure out how to rephrase this or how to reorganize things right here so that it doesn't kill the punch that it had, but still can make a lot more sense in the reader's mind when they read this for the first time. Oh, okay, I'm gonna try this. Okay, let's read that again. I basically just added in like a clarifying question from one of the characters, and that might have fixed it. Okay, so I changed one of the words a little bit further down in this chapter, and I think it makes more sense, but it also gives a lot more away than what I had it as before. I really do love how in-depth I'm going in this draft, but at the same time, I wish that I didn't need to make like exact phrasing choices right now just because it's so stressful. Well, not stressful. It's a lot of pressure to have to choose between like 2 words that work really well. One of them gives more mystery and one of them gives more information but kind of undercuts that mystery. And I have to choose between them. And I don't really see a good in-between word. I kind of see it as one or the other. But this is how this draft has gone a lot. It's just me staring at the screen trying to figure it out. Okay, I actually do like the word that I had beforehand. We're gonna switch it back to that and see what happens. Okay, so now I'm gonna reread this portion, and now I have something that I need to fact check. Okay, now I'm officially 2 pages into chapter 4, and they look very different on the page. I'm gonna try and show you guys without showing you actually what I'm working on. So hopefully you guys can see all of the red here, which is all of the insertions I've made, and then the yellow highlighted portions are things that I'm gonna double check on the next pass. And then this second page was a lot of deletions and not much added. So now that I've done half of chapter 4, I am sitting at 161 revisions, which is looking pretty good. It is now 10 p.m. I could either take a break now or I could keep pushing for a little bit longer. I'm gonna keep pushing for a little bit longer just because I still have 2 more pages that I want to have edited before I go to bed tonight. Even though I don't technically have to get this all done tonight, I would at least like to get through my first pass of rereading and editing this chapter. Wait, I just read down a little bit further. I just included some of that information, so now I'm gonna have to look at this portion and the portion that I was just working on to try and figure out where that information is most helpful. So I guess that's what I'm doing next. So I stopped editing in hopes that I would go to bed and then get up and get on my flight the next day, and instead I decided to deep clean my apartment for 2 hours, which is great, but then I didn't finish chapter 4 that day. The next day on the plane, I did end up finishing the first pass of edits, and I think I ended the first pass at something like 164 revisions for this 4-page chapter, and then I moved immediately into the second pass over the chapter, and that first pass ended up bringing down the word count from 1,739 words to 1,574 words, and then I went straight into the second pass where I was just rereading the changes that I had made to make sure that I liked what I had changed and to make sure that it flowed well and it read well and the pacing was good, and basically that I was happy with all of the changes that I had made in the first pass. And I ended up taking out another 54 words, and then my total revisions then went up to like 244 or something like that for the chapter. And then just yesterday, which was several days after the first 2 passes, I decided to reread the chapter and just make sure that I was happy with it, because it had been a couple days since I had last touched the chapter, and I only made like 4 or 5 more revisions, but those revisions were cutting words out. So in the third pass, I ended up bringing down the chapter from 1,520 words to 1,486 words, which I think is a total of 254 words fewer than what the chapter originated at, or at least what it was at in draft 5. As I was going, I was writing down names that were still needed, and for this chapter, I have at least 3 characters that need names, and I think I need to name another city and potentially a 4th character. So I definitely still have some things that I want to be working on in these chapters and that I should probably do before I begin my editing for today. But that is a look at my editing process for draft 6. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making it and talking it loud, and it actually really helped me figure out some of the things that I was working on in this chapter, and I'm looking forward to the rest of draft 6. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you have not already, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!